Alright. Last time on Laura Bow and the Dagger of Amon Ra, we decided to go to this fundraiser at this museum so that we can investigate the disappearance of a valuable dagger, specifically the Dagger of Amon Ra.
Excuse me, Fräulein, but this affair is by invitation only. Your papers, please.
Oh man. A German man asking for my papers.
Danke, Fräulein. I'll return this pass when you are leaving. Enjoy yourself this evening.
Alright.
You pick it up and place it in your purse.
What was it? Ah, it appears to be a glass.
A crystal water receptacle.
Ah, thank you, a water receptacle.
Bonjour, Miss Bow. Dr. Carrington told me you were covering this party for the newspaper. I'm Yvette Delacroix.
That's right, Miss Delacroix. I'm writing the social news column.
Ah, the social news. I was thinking you were here about the burglary.
The burglary? Oh, of course not. The newspaper would never assign a female cub reporter like myself to such an important story.
Ah.
Ah, you are probably being correct, Miss Bow.
Alright. Alright, tell me everything you know about these people.
Ah, Monsieur Pippin, he is such a great man. And quite attractive, no?
Tell me everything you know about this Jagoth.
Dr. Carrington is my superior, so I'd rather not be saying the bad things about him.
What bad thing?
He is very strange, even for a man. Ah, but you are trying to trick me, no? It's best that I am not talking about him.
Alright. Tell me everything you know about Crodfuller T. Rub. I actually probably don't know him. Tell me everything you know about Low Fat.
The low fat, I know him. The little laundry I take to the cleaners, low fat does it himself. We have the deal he enjoys, so it costs me nothing.
Ziggy. Do you know anything about the Zigster?
The annoying little man? I met him at the speakeasy long ago, but he is not my class of person, no. He is of the criminal type.
Alright. Tell me about Dr. Olympia Miklos.
Dr. Miklos and I, we have much of the fun together. She is very friendly. Many times we have run through the museum chasing the daisy, no?
Alright. Tell me everything you know about the Wolf Heimlich.
Monsieur Heimlich, he is the intense fellow, no? Very military, very stiff and straight. I feel very safe around him, but I also feel uncomfortable. He patrols the museum so much. It is strange the dagger was stolen from under his nose, no?
You don't say.
Do you suspect him of stealing the dagger?
Who knows? I am not the policeman. But he seemed very upset about the burglary. Maybe too upset, no?
Some interesting questions for someone who's apparently just writing a social column. Do you expect this other guess of stealing the dagger?
Monsieur Najir, he is a funny little man. I see him in many strange places in the museum. But he is only the accountant for us, so I don't understand why he is here all the time.
Okay.
Do you think Mr. Najir could have stolen the dagger?
Why, because he is the Egyptian? I do not think so, Miss Bow, but I do not know him so very well. He is a man after all, and who knows how they are thinking.
Tell me about, the Countess.
Ah, the Countess. She is not what she seems, no?
What do you mean?
Her last husband, he was afraid of her. He told me. Then as I learned more, I was becoming afraid of her too.
Why? She seems like a nice old lady.
It is all the act, no? She is a dangerous one. Now I think she is after Dr. Carrington's money, since I am seeing them together so often lately.
I don't understand. Why is she so dangerous?
Just be trusting me, Miss Bow. Stay away from the Countess. People die when she's around.
Oh dear.
Interesting. So the people die when the Countess is around. Good to know. Good to know. Do you know anything about Steve Dorian?
Ah, this Steve. He is so big and handsome, no?
Great. I guess I'll talk to this gentleman here. Actually, before I talk to him, I should talk to him. Before I ask him questions, I
Good
should talk to
evening,
him.
Dr. Carrington.
Hey, man.
Good evening, Miss Bow. Good evening.
Alright. What up? Tell me everything you know about, Dr. Pippin Carter.
The fellow has quite an overinflated ego, but he's got a legitimate reason for it, I suppose.
Tell me everything you know about, Ziggy.
Miss Bow, I find it vaguely offensive that you would even think that I know anyone named Ziggy.
Alright. Fair enough. Tell me everything you know about Dr. Olympia Miklos.
Dr. Miklos is one of the museum's most respected curators.
Good to know, good to know. Tell me everything you know about Yvette Delacroix.
I really haven't had much interaction with Miss Delacroix. Well, of course, she is my assistant. So I guess I should correct myself and say that I do have interaction with her. But I don't know her very well, really.
That's a little on the nose. Wolf Heimlich.
He's a real pip. A genuine go-getter, that fellow. He does a jolly good job of guarding the museum. Jolly good.
Oh man, so many ethnic stereotypes. Jolly good old chap. Countess.
Now there's a lady who truly supports the arts. A real patron, that old girl.
That old girl. That old chap. Tell me about Steve Dorian.
A stevedore? I'm afraid I don't discourse with proletarian ruffians of that stripe.
Proletarian ruffians. Oh man. You should tell me about the Leyendecker Museum, my friend.
The Leyendecker is simply fantastic, Miss Bow. This is the opportunity of a lifetime.
Good to know, good to know. Tell me, I just want to see you squirm when I ask you about speakeasies.
Miss Bow, I wouldn't be caught dead in one of those nocturnal dens of iniquity.
Panda Space Dan says, harump, harump, harump. Yeah, that's a very good summary of Mr. Carrington's character.
What do you make of the theft of the dagger, Dr. Carrington?
It's simply beastly. What is the world coming to when crepuscular ruffians can invade a museum like Visigoths?
Do you have any idea who could have done such a thing?
Not at all. But if I did, I'd be tempted to teach the brute a lesson.
Alright, that's enough. I would now like to speak to whoever this guy is.
Good evening, sir. My name is Laura Bow.
I am Ramses Najir, Miss Bow. Pleased to make your acquaintance.
Well, Mr. Ramses Najir, tell me about Dr. Pippin Carter.
1,000 curses on that man! He defiled the tombs of my sacred ancestors for his own personal glory. He doesn't care a fig for what's right and what's wrong. His own evil deeds will catch up with him, though. Just wait and see.
Okay. Tell me about Archibald Carrington.
I have heard a great deal about Mr. Carrington, but I do not know him very well. We have only spoken once or twice, but he seems like a cultured, charming fellow.
He's standing right next to you, dude. Don't talk about him like he's not here. Tell me about Ziggy.
I do not know Ziggy very well, but he makes me uneasy. His eyes remind me of a jackal's. I met him briefly at the party, then avoided him the rest of the time.
Interesting. Interesting. Tell me everything you know about Dr. Olympia Miklos.
Dr. Miklos is a brilliant individual, but she is certainly a little strange. Ah well, we all have our foibles, don't we, Miss Bow?
I suppose that's true. Can you tell me a little bit about Ms. Yvette Delacroix?
Miss Yvette is a charming young lady, and so friendly. She seems genuinely interested in Egyptology. We had a long discussion about tombs one time.
Okay. Yes, about Wolf Heimlich.
I find Mr. Heimlich to be most intimidating. He seems to enjoy looming over people.
He sounds so, pathetic when he says that. Most intimidating. Tell me about the Countess.
The Countess is quite a colorful lady. She seems to enjoy life to the fullest, does she not? Just between you and me, she scares me a little.
Alright.
Why is that, Mr. Najir?
Well, she's just too enthusiastic for me, I suppose.
Interesting. How about the Steve Dorian fellow?
Mr. Dorian is a very healthy-looking young man. His mother must have eaten well.
Fascinating. Can you tell me about the Leyendecker Museum?
The Leyendecker is a beautiful museum, Miss Bow, but I do not approve of the despoiling of my ancestors' tombs, much less the wanton display of their bodies and their personal effects.
Fair enough. Can you tell me about the speakeasies? I'm sure you hang out in those all the time.
I wouldn't know, Miss Bow. I am a family man, and I do not frequent such scandalous places.
Okay. Makes sense. Can you tell me about the burglary?
Mr. Najir, would you have any idea who might have stolen the Dagger of Amon Ra?
No, but whoever did should be boiled alive. He should be fed to hungry crocodiles. His guts should be strung from the pyramids. He should... Oh, excuse me. I get a little passionate on the subject.
Alright.
Quite all right, Mr. Najee. I understand.
Can you tell me about this study of Egypt? What some people might call Egyptology?
Are you an Egyptologist, Mr. Najee?
No, not professionally. I have always been interested in the history of my country and made a point of studying it. I am particularly interested in ancient Egyptian religions.
Cool. Miss Chloe, whatever your name is, I never asked you about Egyptology, and I understand you're a bit interested in the subject.
You should ask Dr. Miklos or Dr. Smith about that.
Okay. Oh, how about you, fellow? Spry young lad, what's your name?
This is quite a party. Does a museum always have a big fundraiser when they open a new exhibit, Dr. Carter?
No, but they've never had such an important exhibit opening here before. And I'm an important curator with an important salary, so the museum wouldn't have been able to keep me employed here without financial assistance.
You must be very important for the museum to go to so much trouble.
Naturally.
My glasses are dirty.
The museum is lucky that I accepted this position as the head of their new Egyptian antiquities department. Why, my name alone will attract more visitors and more money to the museum.
Any chance that the Tutankhamun exhibit will make a stop here on its American tour?
No. I'd hate to embarrass my relative by putting his Tutankhamun artifacts on display here. They pale by comparison to my own great discoveries, such as the Dagger of Amon Ra.
Of course. How silly of me to think otherwise.
Yes, that was rather silly of you.
I want you to tell me about, okay, you are Dr. Pippin Carter. Tell me what you think of, Dr. Archibald Carrington.
Dr. Carrington is a fine chap. He used to be in charge of the British Museum, you know. I ran into him several years ago when I visited the British Museum to consult with Dr. Butch.
Doctor Who?
Seems odd that Dr. Carrington doesn't remember me, but I almost didn't recognize him either. He's getting old after all. Looks different. Memory's probably shot as well.
Tell me about this, Ziggy fellow that everyone likes to chat about. You're not going to tell me about the Zigster? Come on. Don't you know about Ziggy?
You already asked me that, you silly female.
Well, you didn't say anything. Alright, Dr. Olympia Miklos.
Dr. Miklos is rather eccentric, but she is well educated. Received her training at one of the better universities in Athens, Greece. She's considered quite knowledgeable in the area of hieroglyphics, but her speciality is paleontology. She's fond of old bones.
Alright. Tell me more about this Yvette Delacroix.
That trollop sleeps with everything that moves, and some things that don't. It's only by sheer strength of will that I've resisted her advances so far.
Alright. Can you tell me about this Wolf Heimlich?
Ah, yes. Heimlich's the security chief here. Not a particularly good one, obviously, since the dagger was stolen right from under his nose. And he's rather too intense for my tastes.
Okay. Tell me about Ramses Najir.
Of course I know Ramses. There were several of them, actually. Ramses I was pharaoh during the 19th dynasty from 1307 to 1306 BC, but Ramses II made more of an impact on ancient Egypt. From 1290 to 1224 BC, Ramses II undertook a succession of gargantuan construction projects which left his mark in the face of Egypt for thousands of years. His mortuary site at Thebes, the Ramesseum, contains a temple to Amon-Ra, a royal palace, a mortuary temple, and several storerooms.
Actually, I was referring to Ramses Najir.
Never heard of him.
Seriously? He's standing right next to you. Tell me about the Countess.
The Countess was married to the former president of the Leyendecker Museum, Sterling Waldorf Carlton. A good chap, but uninspired. Now she has his sights set on Dr. Carrington.
Alright. Tell me about Steve Dorian.
Steve Dorian. The stevedore with the ridiculous name. He's the fellow who helped unload my artifacts from the steamship. If it weren't for his odd name, I would have forgotten him entirely.
Tell me about this museum that we're standing in. The Leyendecker Museum, to be more specific.
With a little work, I can turn the Leyendecker into a world-class museum. But that can wait a few months until they decide to make me the president. Dr. Carrington will have to find other employment, of course, but I'm sure some lesser museum would be happy to have him on their staff.
I love how much these characters all like to wear their motivations on their sleeves. They're so on the nose about everything. I want to know if you frequent speakeasies, my friend.
If you're referring to the local drinking establishments, they are quite illegal, and I don't condone their existence. I do drink on occasion, but only when the finest wines are available.
Alright. Tell me about the burglary.
You must be very upset about the burglary.
Quite so. If I ever find out who stole my Dagger of Amon-Ra,
Your
they
dagger.
won't live to regret it, I can assure you.
Oh my. Do you have any idea who would do such a thing?
I have my suspicions, but I need more proof before I subject him to the full force of my wrath.
Have the police learned anything?
Those incompetents? Hardly. They couldn't even find any clues around the dagger display.
Sounds like the burglar might have been a professional.
Perhaps. It's more likely the local constable couldn't find a clue if it jumped up and bit him on the bum.
I'd like to ask you then about the Detective Ryan O'Reilly.
Ah, yes. Can't say I'm too impressed with Detective O'Reilly. Couldn't find a single bloody clue about the dagger burglary. And he has the nasty habit of chewing on grapes constantly, probably to cover up the smell of the alcohol he drinks.
Uh-huh. Can you tell me about the burglary? Or no, I already asked you about that. Can you tell me about Egyptology?
Since you're an expert on the subject, what can you tell me about Egyptology?
I don't have time to explain the intricacies of my profession to a neophyte. If you're truly interested, I'd suggest several years of difficult study on the subject at one of your better universities. Once you've finished that, you can talk to me again.
Alright. Tell me about... who are you?
Heard any good rumors lately?
Maybe?
Oh, hey,
Maybe
Ziggy.
not. What's it worth to you?
So what's up with that guy
Well,
saying,
I don't have
I'm
any
offended?
money right now.
Then I ain't got no rumors for you, Toots.
I'm amused by the guy that was like, I'm offended that you would even think I would know a Ziggy, and there Ziggy is, just standing in the crowd. Whatever. How about this gentleman over
Hi.
here?
I'm Laura Bow.
Being snobbish high society types, these partygoers just ignore you entirely. You're simply not a part of their social circle.
Is this guy the same way?
Hi.
Being
Alright, how about this guy?
Hi.
being
Alright, how about this guy?
Hi.
being snob
Okay.
The buffet tables are heaped with food, champagne, and water.
Whatever happened to Prohibition?
The buffet table
Alright. Let's head back here, I guess. Ah, there are more things.
It's a buffet. Don't touch it.
Who are you?
Hi, I'm Laura Bow, and I'm covering this event for the Tribune Society news column.
Good evening, Miss Bow. I'm the Countess Lavinia Waldorf Carlton. Please be sure to spell my name right in your story.
Alright, so give me the skinny on Dr. Pippin Karcher.
Ah, truly a man of great ambition and integrity,
How about...
asked-
Dr. Archibald Carrington. What do you think of that good old boy?
Dr. Carrington? What about him? I know very little about the man.
Now that's odd. I could have sworn Mr. Dorian said that you met Dr. Carrington in a taxi when he arrived on the Andrea Doria.
Yes, so what if I did? I mean, yes, I did meet him that night. Our families are, old allies from the time of the War with Roses.
Ah,
I felt obliged to meet him upon his arrival. Noblesse oblige, you understand.
I guess you have a long memory. Archibald Carrington, Ziggy.
He seems a perfectly dreadful little fellow. Let's not discuss him.
Fine. Talk about something else. Tell me about Dr. Olympia Miklos.
My, she is unusual, isn't she, dear girl? I can't stand that horrid ferret of hers. I'm sure it hates me.
Alright.
You ask.
Can you tell me about Yvette Delacroix?
I am not interested in discussing that little trollop.
Have some strong feelings there, I see. How about... Wolf Heimlich.
Oh, Mr. Heimlich is simply dreadful. I think his tiny taste of authority has gone to his little head. Don't you, Miss Bow?
Well, I've never met the guy, actually. Oh, I actually did see him at the door, but... Let's see. Tell me about Ramses Najir.
Oh, he's a darling little man. Just darling.
It's very informative. Tell me about this Steve Dorian fellow that met you at the dock.
What a lovely boy. He has such charming manners, and he's so handsome,
Alright. I'm not going to disagree with you there. I'm going to ask you now about the Leyendecker Museum in which we are now standing.
I think the lion decker is simply divine, don't you?
It's okay. Can you tell me about speakeasies? Do you, spend time in these kinds of
Miss
establishments?
Bow, you must be sure to avoid such dens of iniquity. They can only ruin a young lady's reputation.
Good to know. Well, I already asked you about all the people. Oh yeah, tell me about the burglary.
What do you make of the theft of the Dagger of Amon Ra, Countess?
Oh, it's horrid. Simply horrid. What sort of creature would make off with a priceless work of art, I wonder?
Sort of
Do
creature,
you have
huh?
any ideas about who it might have
Maybe
been?
it wasn't a human after all.
Oh, my, no!
But a bat.
I try not to associate with dreadful people, dear girl.
Can you tell me about Egyptology? Yeah? Yeah?
Do you know much about Egyptology, Countess?
Only a little, dear girl. I find it quite diverting.
Boy, when I think of diversion, I think of Egyptology.
Hi! You're having such a good time, I thought I'd introduce myself. I'm Laura Bow of the New Orleans Bows.
The fanatically happy snobs just ignore you entirely. They're having so much fun, you're sure they're putting on an act to impress their friends.
Alright.
Hi!
The fanatically...
Alright, how about this fellow?
Hi!
The
Nope.
Hi!
The
Nope.
Hi!
The
Nope.
Hi!
The
Nope. Okay. Well, enough of that. Oh, I should probably see if I can get into this gift shop here. I can.
It looks just like the Dagger of Amon Ra. Isn't it beautiful?
Alright, can I look at these things under a magnifying glass? Made in Pittsburgh.
The dagger shows Pittsburgh's high degree of craftsmanship.
Not sure how I feel about that. Just making sure they're all made in Pittsburgh. You never know. Someone may have sneaked the real Dagger of Amon Ra into this gift shop. I've heard of crazier things. Oh shoot, I keep missing the... There we go. Okay. Interesting. Ah!
The dagger shows a high degree of craftsmanship.
There's no made in Pittsburgh.
It looks just like the Dagger of Amon Ra. Isn't it beautiful?
Interesting. I like how he just goose steps everywhere.
Fräulein, this gift shop is closed. You should not be here.
Oh, I'm sorry. The door was unlocked.
Unlocked? My assistant will be disciplined harshly for this mistake. Please rejoin the party now. I will be forced to injure you.
Ah. Wow. Not sure such threats are quite befitting for a museum security guard. Alright. Let's keep hunting through this place. Maybe I should turn the walking speed up at some point. Come on. Come on. I might need to start locking my mouse in here.
Hi, I'm Laura Bow.
Being snobbish high society types, these partygoers just ignore you entirely. You're simply not a part of their social circle.
Okay.
Hi,
Being
Okay.
hi.
Alright. Anything over here? Looks like there is. I'm gonna crank up the speed here. Make this a little more tolerable. Ah, more people. Just what I was looking for.
Good evening.
The snobbish...
Okay.
Good evening.
The snob...
Good evening.
The snob...
Yep.
Good evening.
The snob...
Alright.
You must be Dr. Ptah Sheptut Smith. Nice gold ankh you're wearing. This is quite a party, isn't it?
I find it distasteful to celebrate thievery in the name of science. The artifacts in this museum's Egyptian collection do not belong here. They belong in Egypt.
It's a fair point.
That's only your opinion.
It is the truth. And the thieves who rob Egypt of its ancient treasures will find death waiting for them. Amon-Ra will have his revenge.
I see. Well, nice weather we're having.
Tell me everything you know about this Dr. Pippin Carter.
You dare to mention his name to me? He is the blasphemous temple destroyer and tomb robber who stole the Dagger of Amon-Ra from Egypt. He will know the full force of the curse of the pharaohs.
The curse of the pharaohs. What's that?
The defilers of the great Egyptian tombs and temples will all die as a result of their crimes. The gods themselves will punish them. The great Amon-Ra will snuff out Pippin Carter's life as easily as I can crush a dung beetle under my shoe.
Ah.
How will this happen?
Amon-Ra works in mysterious ways. You will have to wait and see.
Perhaps through murder? Tell me about this Dr. Archibald Carrington.
I had hoped that Dr. Carrington would listen to reason. I had made another appointment to speak with him about the return of the Dagger of Amon-Ra to its rightful home. But this seems futile since it is no longer in the museum.
Another appointment? You spoke to Dr. Carrington once already?
Only by phone. He denied Egypt's claim to the dagger. It was hoped that a personal visit would convince him of our sincerity. But the situation has changed since then.
Ah.
It is...
Tell me about, Ziggy. What do you know about this Ziggy fellow?
Never heard of it.
Okay. It's actually a guy, but... Fair enough, fair enough. Can you tell me about Olympia Miklos?
Dr. Miklos is very well educated for a woman.
Ah.
I would like her more if she were an Egyptian.
Oh. Well. It's a little on the nose. Can you tell me about Yvette Delacroix?
Ah, a delightful girl. I keep asking her if she'd like to be my second wife.
Ah,
She's
stereotypes.
so very feminine and seductive and charming and attractive. And
Okay. I get the idea.
you should try to be more like Yvette. Men would like you more that way.
Oh, thanks.
Men like me just fine the way I am.
That's what you think. I find you quite annoying.
Alright. Tell me about Wolf Heimlich.
Heimlich is that annoying guard who works here. His fanatical devotion to his occupation is admirable, but he seems lacking in his mental capacities.
Alright. Tell me about Ramses Najir.
Ramses I was pharaoh during the 19th dynasty, from 1307 to 1306 BC. But Ramses II made more of an impact on
So this is just what the other guy said.
Ramses II was responsible for gargantuan construction projects which left his mark on the
Actually, I was referring...
Nigeria's never heard of him.
Are
Alright.
you sure you don't know him?
No? I mean, yes. English is such a difficult language.
It's true. The Countess. Tell me about the Countess.
I have only met her briefly, but she seems to have a sincere concern about my problems. A charming woman.
Okay. And can you tell me about Steve Dorian?
Do you know Steve Dorian? He works at the docks.
I don't associate with common dock workers, madam.
Alright. Tell me about the theft of the Dagger of Amon Ra.
Have you heard anything about the burglary?
No?
Do you have any idea who would want to steal the Dagger of Amon Ra?
It has already been stolen once, from Egypt.
I can see I won't get anywhere with you on this topic.
Alright. Can you tell me about Egyptology?
Since you're an expert on the
The study of ancient Egyptian history is of the greatest significance. Many of our modern religious customs originated in the ancient world. The time of the great pharaohs and of the great Egyptian gods was the peak of human civilization. Our modern society is a mere shadow of its former glory when compared to the pinnacle of human development reached by the ancient Egyptians. They knew the truth, and the truth was Amon-Ra. He led Egypt to world domination.
Aren't you exaggerating just a teensy bit?
I would not expect you to understand. You are not an Egyptian, and you are a woman.
What's that supposed to mean?
I think it's pretty clear.
I'm tired of this topic. Speak of something else if you wish to continue our conversation.
Okay, so I'm done with you. I'm gonna move on to this person.
Good evening, Dr. Miklos.
It's Dr. Miklos.
Oh, good evening, Miss Bo.
Tell me about Dr. Archibald Carrington.
Dr. Carrington is a quiet one. I don't see him very often. I'm certain, however, that he must have a poetic soul.
What makes you say that, Dr. Miklos?
I have seen him walking amongst the dead in the Egyptian exhibit late at night. I cannot blame him. It's better than moonlight on headstones.
Okay, so can you tell me about Dr. Pippin Carter?
Dr. Carter is an odd one, if you ask me. He is so very interested in gaining personal glory. He doesn't seem to fully understand the beauty of what he has discovered. Why, the Amon-Ra artifacts are a symphony, a tribute to the wonders of death. Ah.
Tell me about Ziggy.
An odd little fellow, that one. He reminds me of one of the specimens in my dried rat collection.
That seems rather harsh. Tell me about Yvette Delacroix.
I find Yvette to be a charming young lady. Some people around here don't appreciate her zest for life, but I find her quite refreshing.
Right. How about Wolf Heimlich?
Ah, Wolf. He has some lovely scars, doesn't he? Just between us girls, I think he's dreamy.
Interesting. Not a very common opinion, but there it is. How about Ramses Najir?
Mr. Najir is a very quiet one, isn't he? And so polite. Sometimes I wonder about him, though. I see a certain light in his eyes, like Daisy's, when she's about to kill a spider.
Huh.
I think I like Mr. Najir.
Alright. Cool. Tell me about Steve Dorian.
Ah, the young stevedore, Steve Dorian? He is a charming young fellow. I imagine he has some wonderful scars from working on the docks.
Well, I know that you're into scars. Okay, so can you tell me about this museum, the Leyendecker Museum?
The Leyendecker is my home now. I never want to leave it. Its musty hallways and creeping shadows are in my very blood.
Well,
can you imagine spending an entire lifetime drifting through the land of the dead? That opportunity is mine, and I treasure it.
I wouldn't personally choose to live in a museum, but whatever floats your boat. Tell me about speakeasies.
Yes, I am aware that many people enjoy going to such places. I personally do not. I find them too noisy, and the people are too lively. I would like to get a good close look at some of those hedonous livers, however. That bootleg alcohol is quite strong.
So I know you're into livers and scars. Tell me about the burglary.
Dr. Miklos, do you have any idea who would want to steal the Dagger of Amon Ra?
Very funny. Everybody, silly girl. It's a priceless artifact. Not only that, but it is said that the blade is an unknown alloy that can slice through bone like butter.
I suppose that was a silly question after all. Let me rephrase that. Do you know of anyone with any particular motive?
Well, Tut Smith and Ramses Najir both wanted it very badly to return it to their homeland. But they are both so upset, it hardly seems possible that they could have done it. Then again, perhaps they are just fine actors.
Alright, tell me about Egyptology.
You are an expert in Egyptology, aren't you, Dr. Miklos?
Well, yes, I suppose I am. I have been fascinated with the ancient Egyptians since I was a tiny girl. They loved death like you Americans love baseball.
Well, how about this guy?
How are you, Detective O'Reilly?
Just fine, lassie. You're looking lovely this evening.
You're a bit more friendly than you were last time. Can you tell me about, this Dr. Pippin Carter fellow?
That fella is just too big for his britches, that's all I have to say. Someone ought to take him down a notch or two.
You ask?
Can you tell me about Archibald Carrington?
He's got too many brains, that one. He thinks he's better than us all.
Apparently, you're very fond of this idea of people being too smart. Can you tell me about Ziggy?
That man is a human weasel. Stay away from him, lassie.
Seems like nobody likes Ziggy. Poor guy. Can you talk about the woman standing right next to you, Dr. Olympia Miklos?
That woman is downright unnatural, Miss Laura. I'd stay away from her if I were you. She keeps asking me if I've got any scars, don't you know?
She's standing right there, right next to you. You do realize that, right?
You asked?
Alright. Yvette Delacroix.
Now there's a lovely girl. A real lady, don't you know?
Wolf Heimlich.
He's not much of a security guard, if you're asking me. How could I trust a man who allowed a thief to waltz right in here and steal one of the exhibits if he didn't do it himself? He hasn't even got an alibi for the night of the burglary, since he was here alone.
Alright. How about this Ramses Najir fellow?
I don't like that wee fella. Think he's light in his loafers, don't you know?
I don't know what that means, but whatever you say. How about Countess?
Now there's a slippery old bat. If she's royalty, then I'm Rudolph Valentino.
Huh. Alright. How about Steve Dorian?
He seems nice enough, but I wouldn't trust anyone who works on the docks. They're pretty rough company for a wee lass like you.
Tell me about the place we are standing, the Leyendecker Museum.
It's all right if you like that sort of thing. I think it's a waste of time myself. I'd rather be down at the pub knocking one back with me buddies.
Man, the pub? You do realize that this is Prohibition, right? And the Space Stand says, man, the accents in this game are pretty bad sometimes. Are you referring to the accent of Dr. O'Reilly, or whatever that guy's name is, who I think is supposed to be Irish, but sounds like someone attempting a Scottish accent? Or are you just referring to every single other person in this game? Alright. Tell me about speakeasies. I wanna get the lowdown on this.
Mark my words, lassie. I'll have every one of those dens of iniquity closed up by the end of this year.
That seems a little contradictory, considering that you just said you like to go to the pub and knock back some brewskis. And considering that this is the Prohibition era, I can't imagine that,
If you ask me, missy, they're blowing the whole thing out of proportion. Begorra, you'd think that something important had been stolen.
You don't consider a priceless Egyptian artifact to be important?
Listen, girlie, if I chased down every petty theft that occurred within the nastier segments of the population, I'd be working 30 hours a day.
I would hardly call the Leyendecker Museum a nasty segment of the population, Mr. O'Reilly. And if you're referring to our Egyptian visitors, shame on you. And don't call me girly.
By me father's whiskers, you're a fiery one, Miss Laura. All right, I won't call you girly, little lassie.
Panda Space Stand says, yeah, and a lot of the other folks too, in reference to the accents. What Wizard says, when they're Well, there was this super racist Chinese man, and Panda Space Dan says, "Oh good," with a sad face. The racist Chinese man's name was Low Fat, spelled L-O space F-A-T. Just a bit of trivia there. Can you tell me anything about Egyptology, Mr. O'Reilly?
Do you know anything about Egyptology, Detective O'Reilly?
Enough to know it's a bloody waste of time. Sifting through all those old bones and rotting tombs. Better to let the dead rest, don't you know?
Seemed like a pretty reputable source. Alright.
Good evening. I'm Laura.
Alright.
Good evening.
How about this guy?
Good evening.
Nope.
Good evening.
This guy?
Good evening.
Nope.
Good evening.
Alright. Well, I guess I've exhausted all of my conversations with all of these folks. Dan tried to say, Panda's Face Dan tried to say ugh, and it was auto-corrected as Guggenheim. I tried to talk to these people, right?
Hi.
Yeah, okay. What's back here?
Back to the Rotunda, Fräulein. The rest of the museum is off limits. Und you are spooking their mastodons!
Man, this game makes Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis portrayal of Germans as being downright tolerant. Alright, so... What Wizard says, "You're spooking the mastodons," a line from this game. So I seem to recall that you can kind of listen into the conversations. Using the glass as a kind of earpiece.
I prefer the wine glass unless I am listening at the doors, no? Don't take me seriously, I am just making the joke.
You hear nothing of interest.
Okay. So the idea here is you can put these wine glass against your ear and try to listen into conversations.
You hear nothing. You hear
Just making sure that I'm...
It's you. You hear
Alright. Let's try,
You hear You hear nothing.
Okay.
You see a rotund, ruddy-complexioned man in a fez.
Okay.
You hear nothing.
So, I'm kind of curious I know I'm supposed to listen into conversations, but... I don't know, maybe it doesn't, like, trigger that until... Or trigger that function until after, like, you've exhausted it. Oh, here we go.
There I was, standing on the hillside above the excavation in the Valley of the Kings, with the faithful Mahmud describing the dance of the Seven Veils to me in great detail, when a shout rose up from the workers below us. Sensing an important discovery at hand, since I have a sixth sense about these things, I scurried downhill to see that a step had been uncovered in the sand. It turned out to be the entrance to the Temple of Amon-Ra. I took the trowel from the Boskafir and cleared the sand away from the rest of the steps myself, revealing the entrance to the temple. The seal of the necropolis was intact on the door seal, indicating that the temple had not been disturbed. I knew that fate had brought me to the discovery I had been seeking for so long. Tireless after my exertion in clearing the staircase, I used a sledgehammer to break through the sealed doorway.
Seriously?
Within lay the greatest accomplishment of my considerable career. Hidden within the darkness, untouched for thousands of years in the isolated temple, lay the magnificent Dagger of Amon-Ra, the greatest discovery of modern archaeology.
Good show.
Magnifique. Very impressive, Dr. Carter.
So, that's when you heisted it, right?
No, I didn't heist it, you annoying little man. I took it out of the temple and showed it to the workers, who immediately fell upon their faces, all 350 of them, to show respect for my accomplishment.
That's hard to believe, Dr. Carter. Egyptian workers have proudly worked the archaeological digs for many years. I would not think they'd exaggerate their respect for you to such an extent.
It's a fair point.
But then you weren't there, were you, Mr. Nagier?
Well, no, that's true.
And when was the last time you were in Egypt, Mr. Nagier? You seem to have lost some of your accent.
Well, it has been several years.
I thought as much.
Man, what a dick.
Your discovery really was quite a remarkable achievement, Dr. Carter.
Was remarkable, Dr. Carrington? You mean it is a remarkable achievement. There has never been anything like it before.
Man, this guy's
Quite
insufferable.
So. Correction noted, Doctor.
If you will all be excusing me, I see a man I need to speak to.
Certainly, Miss Delacroix. Certainly.
Alright. Miss Delacroix has disappeared. Panda Space Stan says, in response to Dr. Carrington's busting down the sealed door, excellent archaeology. Indiana Jones would be proud, indeed.
Hi.
Alright. Let's see, who else can I eavesdrop on? Maybe I can eavesdrop on these folks now.
You hear
No? Nothing? Nothing to say?
Good evening.
Good
evening. Good evening.
Okay. I guess I'll go back over here and see if I can listen into these people. Oh, shoot. Because, yeah, these are really the only two conversations going on right now. That group and this group. Ah, I guess I need to go around. Down and over. There we go.
Boy, did he bet. She's some dish, ain't she?
Such an obnoxious
French
voice.
Women really have something. I don't think my wife would ever have done it in a mummy case.
In my vast experience of women from different lands, I tend to agree with you, Mr. Niger. I balked when a certain French woman suggested we have a deep conversation on the back of a dinosaur, but I was pleasantly surprised by the results.
Yes, Miss Delacroix is certainly the cat's pajamas, as the Americans would say.
Yeah, we does come up with some good sayings, don't we?
Quite.
Good Lord, I hadn't realized a woman was present. Please excuse us, Miss Bow.
Oh, I wasn't actually listening to you gentlemen, Dr. Carrington. I just happened to be standing here. Excuse me.
All the while, she had her hand against her ear in a very deliberate, listening manner. Okay, well, I guess I can venture back over this way. Can I eavesdrop on your conversation with Mr. O'Reilly?
Ryan, I'm having the hardest of times keeping my hands off you.
Not here, Yvette. There's too many people.
They are not important. You are the most powerful man here, my Ryan.
What about that Carrington guy? He's president of this museum.
The doctor, he is old and weak. You are the young one and strong.
And what would you be wanting, Miss Bow?
Oh, well, I thought I heard you call my name.
You must have been hearing things. I didn't even mention your name.
Oh, sorry. I've got to be going now. Excuse me.
Cool. How about these chaps? Wait. It used to be O'Reilly and Yvette, now it's O'Reilly and that guy.
Good evening.
Okay, so those aren't people I can actually listen to.
And what were you doing when that fancy dagger was being stolen then?
Let me see. I was sleeping in my hotel room.
You don't sound too sure about that.
I haven't been sleeping too well since I arrived in this country. I'm tired, so I'm not thinking too well.
You're not sleeping well. Would you be having a guilty conscience then?
I do not understand your meaning, Mr. O'Reilly. Perhaps it is the English. It is such a curious language, not as clear as the Egyptian.
Well, you say the dagger is what brought you to this country. If I were in your position, I'd be tempted to steal it.
Steal what has already been stolen? The Dagger of Amon Ra belongs to the Egyptian people, Mr. O'Reilly, not to Dr. Carter, not to this museum, and not to this country.
I'd be watching what you're saying, Dr. Smith. You're digging your hole deeper with every word.
Amon Ra will seek his own vengeance on those who have removed his dagger from Egypt. Amon Ra does not require my help.
You say you were sleeping when it was stolen. Were you alone?
That, sir, is none of your business.
Ah, that's where you're wrong, Dr. Smith. It is my business, as long as you're a suspect in the burglary.
A suspect? Do you Americans have no shame? I am here to gain the return of the dagger by legal means. Ask Dr. Carrington.
I have talked to Dr. Carrington, and I know he told you no dice.
The matter is not settled until the last camel drinks from the water of the oasis.
An old Egyptian saying,
What's
I
that?
guess.
Some kind of Egyptian double talk?
Excuse me, sir, but I see a turkey leg on the buffet table that requires my attention.
Nice out. Can I listen into you people? Who's this guy again?
Young lady, if you...
Oh, it's you. Dr. Carrington. You're not gonna have a conversation?
You hear nothing.
Okay. Come on, Laura. There we go. Ah, I'm gonna have to go around. I always forget about that. Alright.
If you want to know my theory about it, I think it was stolen by an Egyptian. No offense to your people, Mr. Nagier, but I think there is a secret sect of Egyptian sun worshippers who have sent an envoy here to steal the dagger.
Interesting theory.
Countess, I hardly think that's likely. Secret sects like you're describing haven't existed in hundreds of years.
Oh, really? And what makes you such an authority on secret sects, Mr. Nagier?
Ah.
Well, I am only expressing my opinion, madam. I'm certainly not an expert on the subject.
Quite so. I think my theory is as good as anyone's, darling, and I heard it from a reliable source.
What source was that?
Who was that?
Never mind. Let's just say my source has never been wrong before.
There's always a first time for everything, Countess. I still find your theory far-fetched.
Since you seem to be listening, Miss Bow, what do you think of my theory?
What? Oh, I definitely think it's worth considering, Countess.
There, you see, Mr. Nagier. The press takes me seriously.
Of course, it is kind of far-fetched.
Huh! Well, I never! Excuse me.
Oh, did I say something wrong? I'm sorry.
Ziggy and the Countess. Not talking about anything of interest? Alright. Oh, you are.
So that's the deal, Countess.
I'd rather not talk about it right now.
Yeah, no kidding. The wall's got ears around here. And so does certain nosy reporters, if you know what I mean.
Yes. Now, if you'll excuse me, I simply must speak to Dr. Carrington.
Sure thing, Toots.
Alright, what are these two assholes talking about? Nothing? Doesn't seem like it, I guess. So let's amble off this way. Nothing?
You hear nothing?
Nope. Okay. What's going on over here? Oh hey, it's that guy.
Miss Bow?
Oh! Mr. Dorian?
That's right, we met at the docks.
Oh dear, your shoes. They aren't exactly formal.
Oh, well, I can explain that, but not right now.
I see. Well, what brings you here?
You.
Oh, me?
You told me you'd be here tonight and, well, I thought we should talk.
Oh? About what?
Could we step outside for a minute? The moonlight is very nice tonight.
Well, all right. I think I'd enjoy that.
I just wanted to explain to you
Nice,
who I really
rose enclave there.
You're not Steve Dorian?
Well, yes, I am Steve Dorian, but I felt like I didn't give you the most accurate impression of myself when I met you earlier today. But, gee willikers, I'm just not used to meeting attractive young ladies on the docks.
Gee willikers.
I wasn't down there looking for a man. I'm a professional journalist working on a story.
Oh, well, yes, of course you are. I didn't mean to imply anything. In fact, I was very impressed with your professionalism and with your smile. I just didn't want you to think I'm a common stevedore.
What Wizard says next time on Laura Bow. Laura Bow gets murdered by a weird dude.
Museum fundraiser.
My stevedore job pays the bills, but I'm aiming for a career as an artist. However, I'm really here because I'd hate myself for the rest of my life if I didn't try to see you again. Maybe I'm a fool, maybe you think we're too different, but I had to try.
Well, I'm very flattered. Are you always this nervous?
I'm not very good with women. I've spent all my time working ever since I was 10 years old, when my father died. I've never had a chance to date very much. Lately, I've spent my free time going to school.
I'm starting to think we're more alike than I first thought. My mother died when I was very young, so I was raised by my father. What kind of an artist are you?
A food artist. A
And I do a
fartist.
little sculpting.
How interesting. But I think that an artist would know enough not to wear work boots with his tuxedo at a formal party.
You're really caught up
I
with
said
that,
I'd
aren't you?
explain that, didn't I? I was hoping nobody would notice. I had to blow 2 weeks' pay to rent this tux, but I didn't have enough left over to rent the fancy shoes. It's just that I had to see you again.
You spent all your money just to see me? My goodness, I don't know what to say.
Say you'll have dinner with me some evening. I may seem a little odd, but I promise that I'm harmless. I'd be honored to spend an evening with you and show you the sights around town.
Well, I don't usually, but you've gone to a lot of trouble to find me. I think I can trust you.
Yes, energy expended on
Really?
finding you is
You'll
a good
do
sign
it?
that you can
Oh,
trust
thank
someone.
you. You won't regret it. I'll make it a memorable evening. I'll paint for you. I'll dance for you. I'll sing for you. Anything you want.
Well, there's no need to get carried away. Let's see how dinner goes first.
Of course. You're absolutely right. I don't seem too anxious, do I?
Maybe just a bit, but that's okay.
Okay. I'll take a deep breath and calm down. I'll be fine. I'll do whatever you want.
I think this is the beginning of something important, Steve. I like you already.
Oh.
Let's go back to the party, Steve. I've got work to do.
What Wizard says renting that tux was not a sound financial decision. Probably not. He also says people who say they are harmless are probably murderers. And the Space Stan asks, is his voice just some normal dude's voice modulated down? That's kind of what it sounds like to me. I have a really hard time believing any natural voice is that low. Oh, Miss Bo.
Well, ain't you's a hoity-toity dame these days. I almost didn't recognize you with your clothes on.
Excusez-moi, am I knowing you, sir?
Ziggy's my moniker. You gonna pretend you doesn't know me?
You are making the joke with me, no? Perhaps you have confused me with someone else?
I ain't joking. You're a bit Delacroix. I know that body of yours anywheres.
I am sure I am not knowing what you mean, Monsieur Ziggy.
Oh, I get it. You's is worried one of these hi-hats is gonna hear us, right? Oh, okay. I'm clued in. We can talk later.
Alright. What are you talking to this gentleman about, Yvette?
Are you enjoying the culinary delights this evening, Miss Delacroix?
This food, it is adequate. I do not eat so much. This way I maintain my figure, no?
Ah, yes. And a lovely figure it is, Miss Delacroix.
Merci, Dr. Carrington. You are so kind.
I feel we've known each other long enough. Please call me Archibald.
As you wish, Archibald. I am yours to command, as always.
Miss Bow, is there something I can do for you?
Oh, no. I was just admiring Miss Delacroix's dress.
Merci, Miss Bow. And your gown, it is a bit out of date, but charming nonetheless.
Thank you, I think.
Well, if you ladies will excuse me, I must mingle with the guests.
What Wizard says, oh man, Bo's super casual listening in pose is amazing. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Well, well, look what the leprechaun's dragged in.
Hey, now watch what yous calls me, O'Reilly. I don't know what that leprechaun thing is, but I don't like the sound of it.
I'm sure you've been called worse things, smart guy.
Only by low-class type poisons, O'Reilly. By the way, ain't you afraid of being seen with me?
Cops talk to stoolies all the time, and I was wondering what you're doing here.
I'm a big patron of the arts. That's the kind of high-class guy I am.
You don't even know what the word patron means.
I does too.
Okay, what does patron mean?
Hey, ain't that the countess I see over there? I needs to talk to her.
Alright. What Wizard says, I've never heard of a person being called a poison before. Nothing to hear there, I guess. Let's see. Have I exhausted all of these eavesdropping sessions? At some point I think I'll be able to go back past the Mastodon. Yeah, these people have been standing here for a while. I don't think they're gonna give me anything new. Nah. Alright. I guess I'll listen in to you people.
One thing I am admiring about the Egyptian man is the way he is treating his woman, with the strong hand and the firm words.
Well, that is the proper way, as our culture teacheth us.
Which is not to say our culture is primitive by any means. Our civilization has evolved over thousands of years, so our methods are quite well thought out and practical.
And the Egyptian man, he is very skilled in the private matters as well, no?
Well, speaking for myself, I feel it is my sacred duty to be knowledgeable in all matters that concern me.
I've certainly had no complaints about my skills, Mrs. Delacroix.
Ah, Miss Bo, I didn't see you standing there.
Ahem. Well, I hear another turkey leg calling my name at the buffet table, so if you'll excuse me.
Alright.
The turkey leg, it sounds good to me also. I'll accompany you, Dr. Smith.
What are you two gents talking about now? Well, Wizard says 3 racist stereotypes walk into a bar. Either the first line of a joke or the premise for this game. Panda Space Dan says, man, what is it with these turkey legs? I don't know. I guess they're delicious. does seem rather wasteful, though, to just have a bunch of turkey legs.
Back to the Rotunda, Fräulein. The rest of the museum is off limits. And you are spooking their mastodons.
Alright. What Wizard says, Dr. Smith probably has a little plaque that says best at sex. Panda Space Dan says, hardly seems like high society food. What are you talking about, Panda Space Dan? You mean that you don't usually find, turkey legs at, an hors d'oeuvres table?
Countess, they tell me you were married to the last museum president, no?
Yes, darling, that's correct. Sterling Waldorf Carlton was such a charming man, and so wealthy. My heart is just an empty void without him.
Yes, Sterling was such a nice man. It's too bad that he's worm food now.
Ew! I prefer to think that Sterling is still with me in spirit.
Oh, I'm sure his body is crawling with maggots by now. But if his spirit is with you, let me know, because I'd love to see it.
It is hard to lose a loved one, no? I understand you were only married this short time, Countess.
Yes, I had only 2 short but charming months of married life with Sterling before he died.
And how long had you known this man before you were married?
Oh, we met just 1 charming month before we decided to get married. It was love at first sight.
Where did you meet him?
Oh, I had only been in this country a few weeks when I met Sterling on an offshore casino ship. It's quite legal to drink and gamble there, you know, and all the right people attend. Sterling was so charming, he just swept me off my feet.
This Sterling, he must have had the large broom.
It's just a manner of speech, my dear.
Sterling was a wealthy man. You must have inherited a nice fortune, Countess.
The money doesn't matter, darling. Actually, there's an annoying problem with the estate right now. It seems Sterling was changing his will when he died to give me more money, perhaps. Anyway, I'm sure my attorney will take care of the problem.
Too bad you can't dig him up to finish his new will.
Yes,
I'm really into bodies. What Wizard says, there is a giant pharaoh head in the middle of the banquet room. I'm just realizing how big it is. Yep, it's pretty huge. What Wizard says, he was so charming and so wealthy. Wow, so wealthy. So many maggots. And the woman in the middle looks like the matriarch of some dystopian society. Yeah, she really did. Not the Countess, but the lady next to her, Dr. Mitlock, or whatever her name is. What Wizard says, he must have swept you away with his huge penis. Panda Space Dan says, gross.
The archaeology, it is such a masculine profession. Breaking into the ancient tombs with your sledgehammer, thrusting your way into the treasure chambers.
Is this character anything other than sex?
Artifacts. It is also
like, is she just sex the character?
Yes. Well, when you put it that way, I guess it is rather stimulating being the most important archaeologist of all time.
And it is such a burden to bear this greatness, no? With such pressure to perform, you must be perfect all the time.
Yes, you have a unique understanding of my problems, Yvette.
Your problems, they are obvious, no?
Very kind of you to say that, but there are many who misinterpret my actions. They don't understand the pressure of having famous relatives in the same line of work, and having to compare oneself to them all the time.
Ah, but the Tutankhamun find, it is nothing when compared to your discovery, no?
Correct. I didn't realize you knew so much about archaeology.
I know many things, Dr. Carter.
So I've heard. Maybe we should discuss archaeology sometime.
I'd love to hear about the work you do, Dr. Carter. Perhaps later tonight?
Will you be working late tonight?
Oh, yes. I think everyone will be here tonight, no? There is much to be done to prepare for the opening of your exhibit tomorrow.
I was planning a break for tea around 3 a.m. if you'd like to join me.
It sounds wonderful. Perhaps you would come by my office then?
I'd be delighted.
What's your job?
It is so gracious of you to take the time to speak with me.
Nonsense. Think nothing of it.
How will I ever repay you for this courtesy? I know how busy you are, Dr. Carter.
I'm sure we'll think of something. And call me Pippin.
Ah, Pippin. What Wizard says, why are all of these words capitalized? I think it's kind of like one of those weird, like, Frank Miller bolding every other word in his graphic novels.
I told you to stop bothering me, you camel driver.
Dr. Carter, I will stop bothering you when the dagger is safely back in Cairo.
I don't know if you've noticed, but the bloody dagger has been stolen from the bloody museum, you great twit.
I see no reason to exchange epithets with you, Dr. Carter. I am aware of the burglary. I am also aware that no evidence was left behind, and the dagger case was not harmed. In fact, I think you removed the dagger from the exhibit.
Me? Me? And what bloody reason would I have to steal my own bloody dagger from my own bloody exhibit?
The dagger is not yours, Doctor. It belongs to the Egyptian people. As to why you stole it, I do not pretend to understand your twisted American thinking. Perhaps you wanted to keep the dagger for yourself, in your own private collection.
Perhaps I should ask why you're shifting the blame onto me, you insignificant peasant.
Perhaps I should ask why you're shifting the blame onto me.
The dagger, then stay about to start rumors about someone else stealing it.
Only an archaeological thief would make such an accusation, Doctor. Now I'm sure that you stole it for yourself.
I did not.
Ah.
Yes, you did.
Did not.
Did.
An intellectual argument.
Did not.
Did.
Gentlemen, please.
Who asked you?
Mind your own business, you nosy reporter.
But
I have more important things to do.
Our discussion is far from over, Dr. Carter.
That's what you think, you malodorous buffoon.
What Wizard says, it's weird that this game seems to think that museum curator is the sexiest profession. Yeah, that is rather strange. This game has a lot of really weird tendencies.
You are interested in the great art, no? Then you should come with me this evening. I'll give you the personal tour of the old master's gallery.
Well,
I guarantee that you will not be wasting your time. You will enjoy it very much.
Well,
You are studying the art at the université, no?
Well, yes, but...
Then it is settled. I will give you the private tour in a little while, no?
But I...
There is no need to thank me yet. I will be enjoying it as much as you will.
Alright, well, not sure if there's anything else to eavesdrop on. Doesn't look super promising. Maybe I can finally go past the Mastodon now. That barrier forcing me to listen to all of these conversations has finally been lifted, perhaps. Ah. Good.
This is a mastodon, one of the early mammals. Technically, the mastodon is not a dinosaur at all, but since they date back to prehistory, they're included in the exhibit. This particular example of the order Proboscidea is the Mammoth americanus, or North American mastodon. The chief feature which distinguishes this shaggy beast from the elephant and the woolly mammoth are its molar teeth.
It's good that this is such an educational game.
The museum staff have labeled this a Struthiomimus, literally ostrich mimic.
Okay.
This is an Eriops skull. Such a large capacity mandible and teensy capacity cranium.
Okay.
This is an Archaeopteryx. Correction, this used to be an Archaeopteryx. Ah, a very nice specimen of Eohippus, somewhat flatter than it appeared in real life.
Boy, Laura sure is knowledgeable about prehistoric mammals. What wizard says, take Eohippus skull? I'll try.
Despite its fearsome teeth, you touch the skull of the prehistoric creature. You discover nothing.
I cannot take it. Perhaps I can examine it under my magnifying glass.
In every apparent respect, this is a perfectly normal million-year-old chunk of a prehistoric creature's endoskeleton.
Alright, what's over here?
Suspended overhead by thin wires, the pterodactyl frozen in mid-swoop presents a most horrific tableau.
I don't know, I think it's kind of cool.
A fairly accurate model of Struthiomimus, or ostrich mimic.
Ah, there it is.
The male and female Triceratops look every inch the proud parents. Looking carefully, you determine that the models in the diorama are very well made.
And the Space Stand says you should smash through it with a sledgehammer, the skull, that is. I guess I'll have to talk to Dr. Pippin about getting a sledgehammer later.
A fine painting of a mighty Brontosaurus, the thunder lizard. This huge creature with its tiny brain is currently the subject of a controversy. Dr. Earl Douglas from the Carnegie Museum of Natural History believes that current Brontosaurus displays have the wrong heads mounted on their skeletons. However, Dr. Othniel Marsh, who originally discovered the Brontosaurus, believes that the heads on current displays are correct. Only time and more fossil evidence will conclusively prove which of these esteemed gentlemen is correct.
Interestingly, I did read somewhere that in the last year, there have been some archaeologists who've been, or paleontologists, I should say, who have been talking about bringing back the Brontosaurus as a label. That it may have been dismissed too too easily.
While this is an interesting... A sign on this dinosaur bone display says, "Please touch." Either these bones feel lonely, or the museum wants you to learn more about the bones by coming into close personal contact with them.
I'm gonna guess that maybe they feel lonely.
You pick it up and place it in your purse.
Ah, I am now a thief. A museum thief.
A small sign identifies this dinosaur as an iguanodon, which means iguana tooth. However, from the Tyrannosaurus rex's point of view, this dinosaur could be identified as dinner.
Ah. What is this plaque?
The sign says, "Push button to hear Rex speak."
Oh man. Nothing would give me more pleasure.
Welcome to the Linedecker Museum Dinosaur Display. My name is Rex, and I'd like to tell you about myself. I'm a type of dinosaur known as Tyrannosaurus Rex, which means king of the tyrant lizards. Although I was not the largest type of dinosaur, I was the largest predator ever to walk the earth. Some of my friends were 40 feet long and weighed 8 tons, with teeth that were 6 inches long. Your modern elephants don't weigh more than 6 tons. I lived between 250 and 65 million years ago, during a period known as the Age of Dinosaurs, also called the Mesozoic era. The first complete skeleton of a Tyrannosaurus Rex was found just 24 years ago in Montana in 1902. Although there were many meat-eating dinosaurs, I was considered the best killing machine who ever lived. Speaking of which, I'm feeling a bit hungry. Would you like to volunteer to be my next meal?
Oh my god. Nothing would be more of an honor, Mr. Tyrannosaurus Rex. Yeah, I'm not sure that they had animatronics like that in the 1920s, but who's to say? Let's see what's in here. Ah. It seems like we've encountered the, medieval armor exhibit.
Surviving examples of 14th century armor are rare. This armor is from Chalcis, circa 1400, showing a decorative fabric covering riveted to the plates. It has a fine globose brigandine with a deep skirt built of large-shaped plates.
Alright. What was it? It says Hall of Dog Armor. Yeah, there is a dog here.
A house pet, tastefully prepared for battle in 16th century armor.
Fascinating.
A rare 17th century English tapestry which tells the story of Teutonic warrior cockroaches that crossed into England from Germany and besieged the castle of Rochford-on-Essex. Although the cockroaches managed to storm the castle walls after a 90-day siege, the knights of the castle managed to squash the invaders when they reached the castle's inner keep.
Are we talking about literal cockroaches?
Since that great battle, the castle of Rochford-on-Essex has been free of cockroaches. Unfortunately, it has also been free of humans. 1 year after the great battle, everyone in the castle died of the plague. Shortly afterward, the castle fell into disrepair and sank into the swamp.
Huh.
A painting of The Black Prince as a Fierce Baby by Ed Botticelli circa 1560. The cheap wood frame is by the Leyendecker Museum circa 1925. An empty chest from the 15th century. Although the carvings on the exterior are crude, cut into the wood by someone with little talent or ability for wood carving, the chest now resides in a museum, simply because it's old.
Huh.
Kind of makes you stop and think, doesn't it?
I guess.
The carvings on the chest depict gnomes leaping through shrubbery.
Fascinating.
Nice warp and woof in the fabric.
Meh.
A close look at the armor reveals a heraldic device of a fierce beaver rampant on a chevron above the motto, Forward.
What?
A small label indicates that this Scottish dog armor belonged to Lord Balfour, 1st Earl of Fife.
Okay.
Up close, the suit of... No matter how closely you look, you see nothing at all in the suit of armor. Upon close up close...
Alright. Okay. And... did they just get lazy and decide they weren't gonna read? Okay. I don't blame them. Ah, we found the Egyptian exhibit. What Wizard says 0 spooky dudes hiding in armor. Disappointing. I agree.
The placard says, this is a granite stele depicting Horus and Thoth found in the Temple of Amon-Ra. This stele was modified during the reign of the pharaoh Akhenaten, then restored during the reign of Tutankhamun. A sepulchral stele found in a tomb of the 6th dynasty. It tells the story of Una, born during the reign of King Tita, who served under Tita's successor Pepi. Una died during the reign of King Merena, full of days and honor. The mummified corpse of Amenophis III, also known as Amenhotep III, or Memnon by the Greeks. He built large temples to Amon-Ra, both at Karnak and at Luxor.
Cool.
In the 5th year of his reign, Amenophis marched into Nubia to quell a mighty rebellion. He also ruled over the Mesopotamians, since his kingdom was quite large. We also know that Amenophis was a mighty hunter who slew 102 lions during the first 10 years of his reign in his spare time. Now he's dead.
Really? I never would have guessed.
It looks remarkably like a glass case in the shape of a pyramid. A small card informs you that this case contained the famous Dagger of Amon-Ra, which is now missing.
Ah. It's too bad.
This pyramid is a model of the Great Pyramid of Cheops, Khufu, as it appears today. Originally, the entire surface of the pyramid was covered with smooth, polished limestone. This covering has worn away over time to reveal the stepped surface we see now. The base of the Great Pyramid covers 13 acres and was built with over 2 million stones to a height of 480 feet. Construction took 30 to 50 years.
What Wizard says of the mummy who is apparently dead, now he's alive! If only, if only.
This is a granite stele depicting Horus and Thoth, found in the Temple of Amon-Ra. This stele was modified during the reign of the pharaoh Akhenaten, then restored during the reign of Tutankhamun.
Alright.
The granite is cracked. A close look at the pyramid shows you the grainy texture of limestone, which you find highly educational.
Good, I guess. Onward. I'll look at that in a second.
The card identifies the slab of black basalt as the Rosetta Stone. Hieroglyphs and letters from the English alphabet are clearly engraved on the stone. The Rosetta Stone was found by a French artillery officer among the ruins of Fort Saint-Julien near the Rosetta mouth of the Nile River in 1799. It came into the possession of the British government after the capitulation of Alexandria. The Rosetta Stone, currently on loan to the Leyendecker Museum, is the key to modern translations of ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs into English text.
Good.
You notice that half of the Rosetta Stone seems to be missing from the display, replaced by a small card that reads, Artifact 310 removed from display for research on 9/1/26 by O.M.
Who's O.M. again? I just want to take a peek in my notebook. O.M. Olympia Miklos. That creepy woman. Good. I can examine this Rosetta Stone very carefully. Oh, nice. I'm sure that I'm going to have to use these symbols to spell out something later on. They have like a specific letter assigned to each hieroglyph. Cool. Okay.
This placard describes the full translated text on the Rosetta Stone, which still resides in the British Museum.
Alright.
In summary, the text records the decree
yeah.
discusses the great benefits which the Pharaoh had conferred on Egypt, and states what festivals are to be celebrated in his honor, concluding with orders that a copy of the decree, in hieroglyphics, Demotic and Greek, shall be placed in every large temple in Egypt.
Alright. Now I'm going to look at this thing on the floor.
Ironically, there's a gold Ankh medallion, the ancient Egyptian symbol of life, resting in the pool of blood.
The pool of blood? You don't want to sound a little bit more broken up about that? Whose medallion is it? Is it Smith's?
A close look reveals the initials PS inscribed in the back of the bloody Ankh.
Yeah, I think that's Smith's.
You pick it up and place it in your purse.
Yeah. Well, let's see what's inside this mummy case.
Dr. Carter seems to have suffered a severe trauma to his chest area.
Yeah, you don't say. Well, goodbye, Pippin Carter.
The red fluid appears to be blood. This might explain Dr. Carter's pale appearance. A red fluid. When you reach into Pippin's tuxedo jacket, you find a notepad in his inner pocket. You pick it up and place it in your purse. You lightly touch the blood with your...
Okay.
Pippin's nose appears to be undamaged. He does not appear to have suffered any blows to his face or nose. From the look in his eye, it appears that Dr. Carter was surprised to find a dagger being inserted in his chest.
You don't say.
There are no signs of scratches or bruises on his flesh. This could mean that the murderer, assuming this wasn't a suicide, knew Dr. Carter well enough to get close and stab him without arousing any suspicion.
Probably not a
Or
suicide.
it could just mean that Dr. Carter was completely taken by surprise when someone assaulted him from the shadows.
What Wizard says, you immediately start interfering with the crime scene. Yep, the Last Express this is not.
Upon close inspection, the jacket is free of blood, but there is a bluish stain on one lapel. A close look and sniff at the stain makes you think that it's grape juice. There is nothing else in There is no... That would be highly improper, Laura.
I was trying to check his pants pockets. Settle down, settle down. Alright.
You get no response.
You scream like a banshee, lass. Did you kill the man then?
No, I just walked in here and found him.
I suppose that would explain your screaming then. Did you see the murderer?
No.
All right, I'll talk to you later after you've had a chance to calm down. Just don't try to leave the building.
What Wizard says looks like he murdered a dude, Laura. On the cutting edge.
Excellent work. Your father would be proud of you.
Nice to hear.
Having already interrogated the guests, Detective O'Reilly is now discussing the murder with the staff members as they leave the party. It would be best if you don't interfere.
Alright. I'm going to save my game. Laura Bow quits. Yes, she does indeed. What Wizard says, are you going to be playing The Last Express? I should. That would be a good choice. Not sure what year that game came out in, but it's a really good game. One that I enjoy quite a bit. And then he asks, how many acts does this game have? That's a good question. Hopefully not too many more. I'd at least like to be finished with this game by the end of the week. 1997. Okay, so it'll be a little bit before we get to The Last Express, but it is a good game. So yeah, that was Act 2 of Laura Bow and the Dagger of Amon-Ra. Hope you enjoyed it. It's it's interesting. So we'll see what happens next tomorrow on this crazy adventure. Have a good night.